Good afternoon and welcome to the Exibi Getting Started webinar. My name's Brenda Smith and I work here in the marketing department at Exibi. A really fun part of my job involves working closely with teachers in local schools, and I'm pleased today that I'll get a chance to work with you so that you'll be able to get started with Exibi as soon as you return to school. Because I'm going to be recording this webinar, please would you jot down any questions that come up as we go along, and I'll be happy to answer them afterwards. Exibi is a portfolio application. It enables students to create purposeful collections of work to document and reflect on their learning and experiences throughout their school lives and beyond. What you're seeing on the screen at the moment is two exhibits created by a middle school student, one about their academics and one about his extracurricular activities within and without school. Hopping into this snapshots of middle school, you can see that it consists of a number of different collections of work. The pieces of work in each collection are related by subject area or topic. There might even be a particular skill. For instance, this one's focusing on technology skills. They can also be just one long project, for example, a senior project or a capstone project. And the collection then consists of a number of different pieces of work associated with that project. Going in, you can see that it's a simple web page, and on that web page, actually I think I'm going to hop into a different one because that one's quite short, not well developed yet. I'm going to go back into the Integrated Studies collection. So it brings together blocks of text, files and images, and the files can be all sorts of different types. In this case, there's Word documents and a PowerPoint. It could also be spreadsheets. You can also bring in videos that you've created into your portfolio, and a really great feature is that you can actually link off to material that's stored online, for example in Video or Flickr, where they have photographs stored sometimes, or even a blog. Perhaps you've put a fantastic response to something on a blog and you'd like to include it in your portfolio. So there's a way for students to do that and bring it into the collection. And together the text and images and files tell a story of the student's learning. We say that Exibi is very simple. It's a very easy to use portfolio and it's designed specifically for the K-12 space with their needs in mind. Of course, it's great for older students as well, but it's designed with the needs of younger students for safety and simplicity. And I'm going to try and show you that in the next few minutes as we build a collection and create an exhibit from a number of collections. The interface is actually very easy in that it follows the natural workflow of portfolios. Here you can see that students bring in artifacts, pieces of work that they think should be included in their portfolio, and in that process of selection they start to think about their work. They use the artifacts to create collections of work, and then they can bring together a number of collections into an exhibit, or they can share their collections in a more formal way through resumes. When they're ready to share the work, if they would like to do that, they need to go into a publishing area to seek approval. So this is where they're going to request approval from their teacher. And finally, if the teacher does give approval, their exhibit will become part of the showcase, and this will be available for people that they want to or are allowed to share with. Let's see how we create one of these. So we here have two finished exhibits, which is the point at which we started. We're now going to create a collection of our own. So I'm going to go back into the Workspace and bring in a couple of artifacts. Our portfolio, the one that our collection that we're going to create, is going to be about the skill of design thinking. And Sam has created a number of games that he wants to include in this collection. So I'm going to bring those into the artifacts section, creating a new folder for these materials. Just click to rename it and call it Design Thinking. Rename. So now we have a place to store the files that we're going to bring into our collection. Let's open it and upload a file. The first one is a Lewis and Clark game that he designed. And it's actually designed in Excel to make use of the random function to choose questions for the players. So here's our first artifact, the Lewis and Clark game. I'm also going to upload an image of it so that when someone is looking at his portfolio, they'll get an instant impression of that. Attach file, Lewis and Clark image. And there it is there. Now, younger children find it a little more difficult than others to locate their work in a file tree. So to help them out a little bit, I think it's important for them to learn to do that. But at the same time, it's really nice if they can just create something directly into the portfolio. So there's an Exibi doc here, which has all the tools that they're familiar with from Word or other word processing applications, and they can just create a piece of work in here, maybe a poem, maybe a little short story or paragraph, and that can be saved as an artifact. So I'm just going to call it Math Puzzle and pretend that Sam has explained his puzzle in this piece of work, and I'm going to save that. So we now have 3 artifacts that are all headed towards the same collection. Okay, let's hop into that collection now and create one. We need a new collection, and I'm going to go straight into it. And to create a collection, you click the edit button. It's a little bit like a wiki in that regard. When you want to change something or begin it, you click the edit button. I'm going to first of all create a little piece of introductory text and a heading. Let's call it Lewis. Well, we maybe just do a little bit about design thinking first and what that means to us. I'm just going to write some text in here, like all of the pieces in this collection are going to demonstrate my ability to design things that are well thought out and that are functional. Maybe I want this heading to be included in a table of contents. So I'm going to click this button here and then save. All right, let's bring in one of our files, the Lewis and Clark game. We select the artifact, and it's in the Design Thinking folder. Lewis and Clark game, select file. All right, and it's already in here. If you wish, you can change what it's called, because sometimes we don't name our files thoughtfully until we actually have to present them. So if they wish to change it, they can, and they can write a little description of it. I'm now going to bring in the image so that the viewer gets to get a little impression of what the game is before they open it. So let's go to the same artifact folder, the Design Thinking, and bring in the Lewis and Clark image and save. Finally, I'm going to bring in that Exibi doc. So I'm going to go to the Exibi doc thing here, select artifact, go back to our Design Thinking folder, and I'm going to bring in that Math Puzzle Exibi doc and save. You don't have to I don't have to have everything stored in the same folder. Maybe you want to include something from another folder. For example, Sam created a special little puzzle, a Who Am I puzzle at the beginning of the year. Maybe he would like to include that. It's actually in his English Language Arts folder. So the folders and the collections don't have to match up in their titles. Okay. Let's have a look at what we've created in that really short time and see the beginnings of the web page. It looks to be in a rather strange order at the moment. Like we wanted this design thinking first to give an introduction to the viewer. So let's go back to edit it. And we can use these arrows to move items around. So I'm going to take the design thinking introduction up to the top of the exhibit. Another thing I don't know that I want that math puzzle first, because really my Lewis and Clark game is my greatest achievement. I'm going to take that one down. And perhaps the image should come after the actual game itself. So let's take a look at it now. And it's starting to look a little bit more like a web page and a good order for things. Okay, so that was a very, very quick demonstration of how students create collections. Collections are actually where all the work of the portfolio is done. And students should be in here revising work and bringing it up to standards. You'll notice that this collection that we've just created, I've not named it yet or given it a picture. All of these pictures here are called tiles, and they represent the topic. So I want to go in here and put a picture in, but I don't have one at the moment of my own. I'm going to click this little camera here. And I'm going to actually choose a sample graphic that comes with Exibi, because I want to get a picture in there quickly rather than have the graphic that's there. So because all of the games I've made are very much tech oriented, I'm going to choose this picture to use. And there it is. And also I need to name that. So I'm going to go edit tile, and my new collection is going to be called Design Thinking, and save. So now we have a new collection. There are quite a lot of collections in Sam's folder portfolio at the moment, and he wants to create a new exhibit about 21st century skills. So let's go into the exhibit section now. And remember, an exhibit is a collection of collections. We're going to create a new exhibit and call it, let's go straight to the tile this time. Let's call it 21st Century Skills. You can give it a subtitle if you like. And this time I'm going to choose a file in the tile photos. And this one's about teamwork, which I think is a pretty big skill in out of the 21st century skills. And I'm going to save. And now we have our new 21st century skills collection, or exhibit, sorry. All right, let's go into the exhibit and actually bring together a number of collections. Again, we click edit to start building the exhibit. And this time what we're doing is linking collections. Now this is really fast. We want to show in this exhibit that we have these 21st century skills. Let's see how fast this can go. We've already created the collections. I'm going to bring in the design thinking one that we've just made. And then looking back at these collections again, I think maybe the technology skills, they definitely are part of our 21st century work life. Let's add that as a collection. And let's see if the robotics club, a lot of 21st century skills would go into that one. So let's add that to our exhibit. If we like, we can select a theme. Young students like some of these wilder themes. So let's just pop this one on at the moment and save. And then we can finish editing. And here is our new 21st century skill exhibit. In most cases, the student wants to have the tiles as the interface with the user to introduce their collections within their exhibit, but sometimes they want to change that to a table of contents. And to do that, you just click this button in the corner, and the things that we marked off in our collection actually appear as a table of contents. And then we can go simply back to the to this later. Okay, we're now going to go into the publish section. Perhaps Sam wants to share his new exhibit. Perhaps with he wants to show some other teachers at the school, or he wants to share it with his classmates. And maybe he even wants to share it publicly, but he would have to, well, let's mark it on for the moment. We'll say that. And that they're going to require a password. So when he sends his invitation here, that the person who gets that invitation will get a passcode, so that they have to go follow the link and type the password to get access. The other thing that makes it really safe is that the teacher has to give approval for everything. You can see that in this new exhibit, part of it has actually been approved before because he had previously done these two collections here. But there are two parts remaining that are not yet approved. So he's going to send this to his teacher for approval. Let's go Mrs. B. Smith and send. And then I'm just going to come over to the teacher website. I'll bring it over here. Expanded at the moment. And let's refresh. I'll certainly have to refresh. It's just logged itself out. Okay, you can see that Sam's pending, that Sam's request has sent this message to the teacher, and she's going to come into her own portfolio that you can see is very much like his, and use this to go and look at his work. So we'll do that in just a second, but notice here that this is exactly the same as the student's portfolio, except that it has other workspaces at the bottom here. That's because the teacher is able to access all of her students' workspaces through this part of the interface. Let's go into this pending approval. You can see that there's one approval request, and here is the work right here for her to look at. Hopping into the work, it shows which part of the portfolio has not yet been approved, so you don't waste any time going over things you've already looked at and approved. So we're going to hop into the design thinking. You can see that the title is absolutely fine, the graphics fine, the content looks good. I could go in here and take a look at the games. Let's just hop into the Lewis and Clark game and open that. Okay, I can see that there's some instructions, and I can see the game board across here. Everything looks good. Let's close that down. I think this is absolutely fine to approve. You can see these little red lines here. They indicate that nothing in this has been approved at all. So it would be up to the teacher to check everything. If a child makes even just a tiny change, they have to get their exhibit reapproved, and the red line will indicate where that change has been made. So it may not tell you much on this page, but when you get a whole collection and there's just one thing you've got to look at, it's really helpful. So I'm going to go into the approvals, all approved, save changes. No more any pending requests here. Something I do want to show you is to go back into the workspace. I'm just going to hop into this other workspace area so you can see that you can put Sam in here, Sam Potter, at any time that you want to. Well before he asks for approval, you're able to hop in. Whoops, I should put Potter down here. You can hop in here and see his workspace, even if you haven't got a request from him. I'm just going to find, and then you can click the View Workspace to go into Sam's work right from your own portfolio. One thing you can do here, let's go to our design thinking, is that you can add a comment. So having looked at Sam's thinking, you might say, great work, Sam. I can see you've included a number of design thinking skills. Post. And at the moment, it's not been read by Sam. Let's go back to Sam's portfolio now and go back to his workspace. This one indicates that there is a comment in one of his collections. So he can see that that one is actually in the design thinking collection. And he's not yet read it, but once he has, he can click the read. And it can disappear if you want it to, or you can show all and have all of the comments the teacher's written about this collection appear. Because this development happens over time, you can have several exchanges between the student and the teacher. Okay, so finally, we're going to talk about the power of Exibi. And the power comes when you start adding reflections and claims. Reflections are actually one of the major ways of getting students involved in their own learning. Already by managing collections of work, students have begun to take ownership of their work. By using reflections and having them think about all sorts of aspects of their work as they're creating it and after they've created it, it engages them a lot, and it's probably the greatest way to get kids actually involved in their own learning. I'm going to add a reflection. So first of all, let's edit. And perhaps after the Lewis and Clark game, in particular after this image, I'm going to add a reflection. And I'm going to call it my strategy. And Sam is going to write a few things about why he designed the game the way he did. So he's thinking about his work, and that makes him more aware of what qualities it has. Let's save that. And I'm going to move it down because it's really referring to something further down. My strategy after the Lewis and Clark image, because that's all one unit there. And now I'll click Finish Editing, and you can see that that appears as a specially flagged piece of the collection, and the teacher can read that reflection and see what the student's thinking is. And what's really neat is that if the student comes back into that later, after he's developed more understandings about the topic, he may decide to change that reflection. So I'm going to go back down to where it is and edit it. And he will probably have a more advanced level of thinking about the quality of his work after he's tried it out with his friends and found what worked in his strategy and what didn't. So maybe he just wants to add to it. and save. And then we'll finish editing. And you can see that there are actually two versions of that reflection now. And that over time, if this goes on throughout the duration of a project, a teacher builds up a really intriguing picture of how the child's thinking has developed over time. Another really powerful aspect of a collection is the claim. We want students to understand the sorts of things that they need to be achieving to be ready for the workforce and ready for college. And there's a lot of talk about 21st century skills. We are going to take a look at a 21st century skills bank that was designed to help students think about the expectations and to understand how they could indicate them. I'm going to actually first go into this browse competencies and choose the 21st century bank. And because this one's is about design thinking, let's take a look at it. Problem solving and design thinking. This gives students an overview of the types of things that they might be looking at to show that they have design thinking skills. There's a number of different skills outlined, and then this part of it just shows the types of things that they might do to show that they have those skills. So that helps them think about the 21st century skill that they're targeting and see how their work may demonstrate it. Okay, so once they're ready to actually make the claim, then they come in here. We've got 21st century skills, and we're going to go to problem solving and design thinking. He had a chance to test his game with his classmates, and he got some feedback from the group. So he's claiming that I test my prototype, then share it with the user group seeking feedback. And he might explain what they told him about his game and how he modified it based on the feedback. Let's save that. And let's finish editing and take a look at that claim. Claims are shown by this symbol. It lists what the skill was, what aspect of that skill was shown in his work, and how it was shown in the work. How is this piece of work evidence that I have that skill? And what's really great is that as students add these claims, they are automatically Exibi automatically creates a list of them for them. So they can come in and over time see all of these 21st century skills developing. And they can go back into the details and see exactly where these competencies have been demonstrated. For example, here, the leadership and collaboration, he exhibited for a piece of work in his robotics club and also in his community service. So it's, and they can be endorsed by the teacher. Remember where I showed you the teacher comments? At that same place, a teacher can say, yes, I do see that this skill has been demonstrated in this piece of work and I endorse that. So over time, this really provides concrete evidence for the student and for the teacher and for anyone else looking into this workspace and even into the showcase that the student has particular competencies that suit them for whatever they are applying to be included in. For example, an employer might look at this and see the types of skills and not just the student saying that I have these skills, but actual evidence of it. So let's just take a look at the employer situation with the older students. Often a student creates a resume as a transition process, and here this is Sam's grade 8 resume. And what you can see is that he's actually got links off to those collections. So his robotics club, he says he was in the robotics club and I got my first experience with engineering. My logbook won an award. And to give some elaboration on that, the viewer could go into his robotics club collection and there's all of this information available to them about that particular item on the resume. So that pretty wraps up the basic tools of Exibi. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy increased student engagement in the classroom by having the students actively involved in managing and thinking about their work and sharing it. If there's anything I haven't covered in this webinar that you'd like to learn about, please contact me via email at bsmith@edvation.com. Thank you for your time today. Bye.